With all the recent controversy, you might be considering selling your P320. But honestly, there's a really good reason you should hang on to it, and that is turning it into a PDW. Today we're looking at the two best options for making this happen, and one of them has a safety. Starting off, we have the Strike Industries Bravo. The theme for this build is going to be modularity and the ability to use a slide-mounted optic. At the core of the Strike Industries Bravo, you have a $130 base that is a polymer frame. It's gonna look exactly like your standard P320 frame, except for this little adapter off the back, and then you can kind of add things on as you want. Starting off with the most notable thing here is going to be the stock. This stock is awesome. Honestly, they did a lot of great engineering with it. It is both ambidextrous, so you can flip it in either direction, and it is quick detach, so you can pull the stock off incredibly fast. This is incredibly convenient because you can throw it on and off really fast. You can use it for a truck setup or a bag setup. So it's really cool. You can just pull it on and off and flip both sides. One thing to keep in mind is it does add some width. When this is collapsed, it is going to make it a little bit thicker. It's also not gonna lie flat on a table. Just something to keep in mind when you're comparing this to Flux Raider is that it does have a foldable stock, not a telescoping stock. We keep referencing this as a stock, but you can use this as a stabilizing brace. It's actually what you get when you buy the whole stock system, is you get the little brace back half and you get to pay another $30 or $40 and turn this into an actual stock. Just note, when you do that, you are going to have to Form 1 your FCU here and make this an SBR. This stock setup is incredibly rigid. They did a really nice job making it robust. It cants down, which is gonna give you a little bit more clearance for your face whenever you're trying to look through your optic on your slide. It's gonna make it a little bit more comfortable. Another thing they did is they added a QD sling point on either side, which is gonna be nice for whenever you have to put a sling on this if you do wanna use it as an SBR PDW setup. Another great thing about this setup is it costs about $200, and you can use this on pretty much any setup that uses a 1913 pick rail on the back. What this means, you can throw this stock setup on pretty much any system that you want. You can throw this on the back of a lot of the pistol caliber carbine setups or the Sig Rattler. Moving our way to the front of the Bravo, you have this spare mag carrier. This thing is awesome. It's got a lot of hidden features. Ultimately, what it does is it holds a second magazine. It's gonna make it a lot easier to do a reload with this setup, gives you a little more capacity, and it works as a great hand rest for you to place your support hand when firing. This extra mag carrier can mount to the bottom of the actual frame itself, or it can mount to the bottom of this blast shield, which we'll talk about in a minute. What's really cool about this is it works with most magazines. Just note, it does not work great with the Magpul PMag. You could smack it in place and get it to work if you have to, but the fitment's not perfect. Talking about not perfect, this system clamps at the top, which is going to actually make it a little bit tight to get your magazine in and out, which will slow down your reload a little bit. This extra mag carrier costs about $40, and honestly, I think it's one of the better attachments to the Bravo. Moving our way up to the blast shield, as I already said, you can mount this to the bottom of the blast shield, so it does have rail section. You can see we are able to run a TLR1HL in the blast shield, so it's gonna be a little bit longer. It's gonna allow you to put more attachments on the bottom. It's also gonna keep your thumb away from the muzzle when you have a full grip on this. You can see how close my thumb is to that. Obviously, it's going to protect your fingers, which is very important, but it's also going to allow you to put more attachments on the Bravo itself, which is gonna make it a little bit more modular and have a little more versatility. One thing to keep in mind with this blast shield is I would not recommend running our HC320 compensator. That is still going to put a lot of gases by your finger, and we've actually heard of instances where this would actually break the blast shield. If you are gonna run a compensator, I would recommend the Herrington Arms HC320R or the 320XL. These are gonna have top ports that shoot all the gases out the top and will protect your fingers. The HC320R was actually designed for the Flux Raider, hence the R in the name. This is gonna give you a little bit more length to keep that muzzle away from your hand, and it's gonna have two very aggressive large top ports that are gonna divert all that gases up, fighting that recoil in this system. And even though it was designed for the Raider, you can see it works great on the Strike Industries Bravo as well. The total cost for the Bravo system with the shield, the spare mag holder, and the braced stock is about $408. Honestly, I think that's incredibly fair. You get all the adjustability and the modularity in this system. You get a really solid stock that you can use on pretty much any build. And honestly, it looks pretty cool too. If you are into the cyberpunk, more aggressive, advanced warfare aesthetic, if you will, I think this does it. I think it performs really great. It's gonna give you more accuracy out of a pistol, and it's gonna give you a little bit more capacity in a PDW setup while still being really light. A lot of PDW guns on the market are very heavy. They're thick. If you look at the Chris Vector I think that's a great comparison. That gun is huge compared to this little setup. And if you guys are interested in the Bravo, we actually have all this stuff on our website at harringtonarms.com. To quickly go over some of the accessories on this build, because I know you guys are going to comment and ask, we have a Holosun 407C. This is a great budget red dot. That is going to be sitting on the L2D combat slide. I like this slide a lot. It comes in at a really great price point, and I think the aesthetic is amazing. In that slide, we have the Herrington Arms prototype barrel. This should be coming out soon. We're not sure when we're going to release this. And sitting on front, we have the Herrington Arms HC320R that we've already talked about. Moving our way down, we are of course running a Streamlight TLR 1HL. Have a lot of experience with this weapon light, runs great. And at the very bottom, we do have a Herrington Arms +5 320 mag extension and a Sig Sauer 30 round magazine. Other than that, this is a rather simple setup. There's not too much going on. We kept the setup rather sleek, but drop a comment down below. I'd love to know what you guys would add to this setup. Now let's talk about the Flux Defense Raider. This comes at it with an entirely different approach. Not necessarily as modular, but definitely a much more refined package. Spoiler alert, this is probably my favorite PDW setup, but now let's talk about what makes this special. With the Flux, what you see is what you get. It's definitely not gonna be as modular as the Bravo, but there's some great features, starting off with the stock. This telescoping stock is phenomenal. What's really cool about this stock is it is going to have very fast deployment compared to the Bravo. You can pull this out really fast and be ready to go. It also saves a lot of space. You're not going to add width whenever you fold the stock to the side. This is a very slim setup, and it's probably one of the things that really stands out about this setup. While this thing saves space, not having a stock fold over to the side, it is still a little bit thicker, which honestly makes it feel a little bit nicer, a little bit more premium. While this stock is pretty simple, it does have a sling point on the side here. Please note when you do buy the Raider, it actually does come with a brace and not a stock. We have SBR'd this, so we are allowed to put a stock on it. And to talk about the stock a little bit, it has a really nice surface contact. Feels very comfortable to shoulder this thing. And the height between the cheek well and the optic for me is about perfect. So talking about the optic riser is another notable feature of the Flux. You cannot run a slide mounted optic on here. You can see in its stay we have a TacDev charging handle, which is really nice with manipulating the firearm. But with this riser, you are going to be able to use a larger rifle sized optic. You can see here we have the Holosun AEMS. I like this optic a lot. It seems to be the appropriate length. You can obviously do whatever you want. I think an EOTech would also be a great option on here. So you're gonna be able to use a larger optic, which is gonna give you a bigger window and make it a little bit easier to shoot. On this riser, you do get a sling point on the left side, which is also really nice if you wanted to run a single point sling. So now arguably for the best part of the Flux Defense Raider is going to be the reload system. They call this the speed reload system, and that is definitely accurate. With this little lever on the bottom, you can half press to get the front mag to come out, or you can full press to get both magazines to come out. This makes it incredibly fast to reload. With the Bravo, you have to hit 2 mag releases at the same time to do a reload, which will just slow you down a little bit. As I already said, I think this feels a little more premium, and I think that kind of boils down to this being built into the frame of the gun. You can see here it gives you a nice hand stop, which is definitely another benefit of this. Shooting this setup feels very comfortable and natural. Perfect place for your hand. They even put on here that it is not a vertical foregrip, so the ATF can calm down about that one. However, another point about reloading this, there is a mag release on the left-hand side for just the back magazine, and there is a traditional AR-15 style release on the right side. So there are like 1,000 different ways to reload this setup, and honestly, it's incredibly intuitive. Once you start shooting this and running some drills, you'll find you can get really fast with this setup. So for those that are concerned about the recent controversy with the P320, there is an additional safety on the side of the Flux. The safety works really good. It's just gonna be another great feature that this packs in, and it's gonna allow you to keep it loaded in a bag. This safety is incredibly robust, and it takes quite a bit of pressure to deactivate it, so it's perfect for a bag setup. One of the things we added to the Raider are these optional side rails. You could use this to mount a weapon light, a IR laser, or illuminator. Honestly, a PEC would look kind of cool on here, but they do have a built-in thumb rest in the back. You can see here there's an angle, and it's a great little indexing spot for your thumb when firing. I also like that when you set this on a table, it lets your entire setup sit flat. So there's multiple benefits to these. These are an aftermarket accessory that you are gonna have to buy separately from the Raider. So for the final price of the Flux without any of the accessories, you're looking at $540. That's gonna be $132 more than the Bravo itself. It kind of comes down to, are you willing to pay for the premium feel of this setup and all the benefits that come with it? So now you guys know what the core of this costs. Let's go ahead and go over some of the accessories. On top, we have a Holosun AEMS red dot. It's probably one of my favorite little square optics. It honestly looks really cool in here as well. Moving our way down, we have the TacDev charging handle, as we talked about earlier. If you don't have the charging handle, it's kind of a necessity. You have to fold this in to manipulate this slide, and it can be kind of tricky. So I definitely recommend a charging handle. If you don't like the one in the back, TacDev also offers one in the front. It's very similar to a lot of the side charging handle rifles you see. Brad at Tactive actually pulled this off of his personal gun to send it over for the video, so we definitely appreciate that. The slide itself is actually an OEM Gunco slide. We sell these on the site. I think it's one of the better X-Carry 320 slides on the market. In the slide, we have an X-Carry AIM surplus barrel, nice budget barrel that has been working great for us. And on the front, we have the HC320R. As we already said, we designed this compensator for the Flux Raider. So not only is it a large dual port compensator, you can see here it fits flush with the bottom of the Raider. Not only is it gonna make it look really cool, but you're getting these ports really far out on the leverage point, which is gonna further reduce some of that recoil. Moving our way down, we have the Streamlight TLR7 HLX. This is a really cool little compact weapon light with a lot of lumen output. It also fits perfectly in the Raider. It's almost like these notches in the spare mag holder were for this weapon light. And the last accessory on this build is, of course, a Herrington Arms +5 P320 mag extension. Looks really good in this build, and adding capacity is kind of a must when you have a little PDW setup like this. But with all that being said, if I could only pick one of these setups, I would choose the Flux Raider. For me, the telescoping stock is perfect. I really like the built-in aesthetic of the spare mag holder, and I like using the larger optic on here. It's gonna make it a little bit easier to shoot. So with all those pros, I think the extra $132 for their Flux is definitely worth it. But if you're somebody who likes a little bit more modularity, I think the Bravo has a lot to offer. It also has a different aesthetic, which I think a lot of people would appreciate. If you guys are interested in the HC320R compensator, go check out HerringtonArms.com. This is a brand new product, and it's definitely going to flatten out either of your PDW setups. If you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.